Don't fit into a box.
Amazing.
We're not about fitting into boxes. We're about tearing them apart.
This is
session, but we're going to start with our opening and welcome keynote, which will be done by Nasli Fredericks.
A future where women, hello, phenomenal humans. Wow, what a moment. It is such a joy to It is such a joy. Hello, phenomenal humans. Wow, what a moment. It is such a joy to welcome you all to today's conversation. From exclusion to evolution, women leading the new urban era of smart mobility. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nas Fredericks Maharaj, and I'm the founding director of the WomenIn portfolio at the VUCA Group. And let me tell you, I have the biggest case of FOMO right now. This is the very first time since we launched Women in Mobility 4 years ago that I'm physically not with you. But I have a good reason, of course. I'm 7 months pregnant and expecting my first little one. So while I may be sitting this one out in person, my heart, my energy, and my passion are absolutely here with you. And maybe that's kind of symbolic too. That is more inclusive, more equitable, and more resilient. Now, a future where women don't just sit at the table. We build the table, we design the pathways, and we drive the vehicles of change together. A huge heartfelt thank you to our sponsor, the Uyilo e-mobility program, and especially to Kezia, Edem, and Buyalwetu. Your commitment, your partnership, and your belief in this vision is what makes today possible. Thank you. Now, before I hand over to our fabulous hostess, I have to give you a little sneak peek of what's coming next at this year's Women in Festival in Cape Town, happening on the 13th and 14th of November. And who knows, actually, I will see you there. So, best you go and book your tickets because tickets start from 1,499 Rand for 2 days of holistic empowerment and more. This year's Women in Festival, we are going even deeper, greater impact with a powerful 2-day gender based violence workshop in partnership with Women for Change, the Warrior Woman Awards, and a lineup of trailblazers that will set your soul on fire. We're talking about Tando Wopa, Honorable Bridget Motsepe Radebe, Kasatu President Zingiswa Losi, and so many more. It's about holistic empowerment, not just in boardrooms, but in every sphere of your lives, helping you to walk confidently into your limitless power. So today, let's hold space for equity, resilience, and re-engineering mobility through inclusion. Let's listen, let's learn, and let's leave inspired to not only break barriers, but to rewrite the blueprint of leadership in this sector. And with that, it's my absolute pleasure to hand over to our incredible hostess for today, the powerhouse herself, Anazi Zota Hyper. Anazi, the floor is yours. And ladies, always remember that you are limitless. I'll see you at the Women in Festival.
Wow, that's a powerful message from the founder and director of the Women in Portfolio. Thank you, Naz, for that introduction. Um, so our sponsor for this session and event is Uyilo e-mobility program. They have been a huge partner with us in developing women who lead women, and they also helped us come up with this theme of having a voice in the boardroom. So, without further ado, for our keynote, sponsor keynote address, I would like to welcome Edem Fali, who is the program manager and Uyilo e-mobility program in South Africa. Please give her a warm welcome.
I'm not okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Women in Mobility session and all protocols duly observed. I would first like to start off with a few points and give a few reasons and insights why the Uyilo e-mobility program decided to sponsor this session. So globally, 25% of workers in the automotive sector are women, while 80% of car buying decisions are made by women. In the transport sector, only 12% of the global workforce are women, while typically in most countries in the world, women use public transport more than men. And they typically do this because it's not because they want to, it's because it's a necessity. They do not have access to a car. They have less disposable income than their male counterparts. They are also the main caregivers in their community, in their immediate families, and in the extended families as well. So why is the female workforce percentage so low? And how do we increase this percentage to make it more acceptable to a level of about 50%? We as women need to more forcefully claim our seat at the boardroom table. We need to have a say on the design of electric vehicles, the safety when driving the vehicles, and also the safety when using transportation services. And there are three effective ways to do this. We need more role models who are women for young women and girls in order to make science, engineering, mathematics, and related subjects more attractive. We also need to make sure we promote equal opportunities for mentorship, coaching, and skills development for women and for men, and not just primarily for men in the sector. We also need to make sure that the women and men who are in executive and leadership roles in the sector promote gender balance across all levels, from interns, entry level, to C-suite and executive level. It is really my hope that during this session, we can honestly and truthfully discuss these challenges and give practical, not theoretical, practical, implementable suggestions on how we can overcome these challenges. I thank you all for your presence today, and I wish you a fruitful and engaging discussion. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, Adem. So I want to invite you ladies to come a little bit closer and occupy the front seats. Don't worry, we don't bite. We're going to go into our fireside chat, so we want it to be a little bit more intimate. So you're welcome to come to the front. This next session is our fireside chat. It's about making our voice heard and driving transformative change, and it's lessons from women in mobility. So we'd like you to just think about how women have basically been redefining leadership, challenging norms, and driving transformative change. In this session, we want to explore the power of representation and why it matters, not just in leadership roles, but across the entire micromobility session. So without further ado, as you already know, Edem Fali and I will be talking about having a voice in the boardroom. Edem, tell us so far about your journey and what led you to occupy the mobility sector.
It's actually very, very interesting. I never thought I'd be part of the automotive sector. If you had told me this 15, 20 years ago, I don't think I would have believed you. So I saw an advert in the newspaper for a program manager position at the Uyilo Electric Mobility Program, which is hosted in an engagement entity called ENSA at Nelson Mandela University. So I applied and I knew it was an engineering related position. I am in the field of business and economics and social sciences. I have an MBA degree. So I didn't think anything of applying, and I was surprised that I was shortlisted. So when I went into my interview, one of the key questions they asked me is, why do you want to change the sector that you're in? So I was previously working in marketing, communications, and advertising. And I said to them that I don't want to become obsolete in my career. I know that things are changing, and I know that electric vehicles is an emerging industry, and I want to be part of that growth and part of that change. So they hired me.
Yeah, wow. You must have made quite an impression. So, just from your personal experience, when was there a time where you felt like you were not really heard or you felt maybe invisible in the boardroom?
I think it was in the beginning. There was a lot of, I would say, passage talk, specifically amongst the men. They said, oh, she's not going to last here long. She'll probably be gone in like 2 or 3 months. And I wanted to prove them wrong. I think, no, I'm not stereotyping women who went to co-ed schools, but I think the fact that I went to an all-girls school made me become more confident. And I didn't feel overshadowed or overpowered by men. And I just carried on and I pursued. And I strongly believe that when you're working, it's not about talking. You just show people and do it. Make sure you meet your key performance objectives. Make sure you produce the outputs according to what you're doing. And people will wake up and they will hear you and they'll respect you, even the men. It's all about results, not about talk. Yes, you do make friends, but it's mainly about results in a male dominated sector.
What would your opinion be of, sometimes we always like to blame men, which, half of the time it probably is the men. But what do you feel about women who want to be the golden skirts or the queen bee of their industries and don't want to, sort of help other women up? What's your opinion on that?
In my opinion, I think the only way you grow as a leader is by lifting people up. Because if you do not lift people up, you as a leader will not grow. So if you want to move to a higher position, you need to make sure that the women who are below you are capacitated so that they can fill your position so that you can move up to the next level. Because if you don't do that, especially in a male dominated environment, you will stay on that level you are at.
And I think obviously it's better if we work together as women to lift each other up in those situations. Talking about male dominated, right? How do you handle like backlash from men or like systemic backlash in corporates, let's say?
So what I've realized over time is that men always expect women to be emotional, to shout and scream, to have a short temper. So with males, my advice is when you go to them with a challenge or a suggestion, you state the facts, you keep your poker face on, and you don't let them make you emotional. Because once you become emotional, they'll be like, oh, this is just a woman, and they'll ignore you.
It's a very hard balance, because it's almost like you're losing yourself because you are a woman and we should be allowed to be emotional. So how do we keep that balance? How can I still be professional but still be myself?
I think, well, a trick that I use is that you need to actually listen to what the men say. If they speak about their children and say, oh, my son was sick, my daughter's struggling with this, you listen to them. Then the next day you ask them, oh, is your son feeling better? How did that maths project go? Then you can get to that personal level with them. The other thing is to understand what their hobbies are. If, for example, they're athletes, then take time over the weekend to watch super sport, watch the rugby matches, watch the tennis matches. Then when you come back to work, you discuss it with them.
I want to ask, do you think there'll ever be, we're in a man's world, do you ever think there'll be a woman's world?
I think there can be. I think it's just about creating that balance. We as women, what our strengths are is that we have that a sixth sense and that kind of emotional intelligence. We can look at someone in the eyes and we can see when something's wrong and we can see when something's right. And we should use that to our advantage in progressing in a world that is dominated by men.
So you've worked with various organizations and people. What have you learned? What are the key lessons that you've learned from working with different organizations? And how do you build effective partnerships and collaborations?
I think from my side, what has been very successful for me is that to let go of anger. Because in this working environment, especially when it's an environment dominated by males, it's very important, and there will be times when you get really angry and get very frustrated, but you need to let go. If someone, whether it's a male or a female, upsets you, and whether or not they come to apologize to you, you just need to let it go. Because if you keep on festering, it will not just affect your work, it will affect you mentally, and it will affect your health and your well-being as well. So I think even if someone might have hurt you and you face them in the boardroom, be objective, and listen to what they have to say. Try and let go of the fact that they made you angry and listen to their ideas. And a lot of the times, those ideas are good ideas, and you shouldn't make your personal judgment of them cloud prospective partnerships and collaborations.
Okay. I find it hard, that word objective. I don't know why, but I've always grappled with it. Even when I was studying journalism, I'm like, what is really objective? Objective to who, to what, and to what culture? But anyway, we all come from different backgrounds. Some of us have more than others. Some of us grew up in suburbs. Some of us grew up in rural areas. How would you advise those people coming in and coming up into leadership, as sort of marginalized voices, to try find their voice in the boardroom?
I think it's a lot of work, but what I do is you need to observe people, you need to get to know people, no matter what level they are at, from the cleaners, the interns, to the people who cook, to the executives, to the assistants for clients, to the personal assistants. You need to treat them with the same respect as you would if they were the Queen of England or the King of England now. And if you do that, they will open up to you. You will learn more about who they are. You learn about their backgrounds. And from doing that, you will know how to engage with them and how to approach them in various situations.
Like, I find sometimes, especially with like big corporations, not that I've, yeah, but like big corporations, you might be walking past someone, might be intimidated to say hi to them, or, So how would you advise someone like who's not in that leadership position yet, but is aspiring to be that type of a leader? How would you inspire them to go up to that person and talk to them? Because there's a lot of notions around leadership, and this leader is like this, like this. How would you dispel those notions of leadership?
So, I'm giving out all my tricks today. So
that's why you're here.
So if there's a specific a leader or a specific person that you are interested in meeting, you need to do your research about them. The best and most professional place to start is on LinkedIn. See what they do. You don't necessarily have to connect with them. You can follow them, because when you follow them, most of the time you do see their posts, because it's a professional space. And then when you meet them in the passages, you ask them, you say like, oh, I saw you speaking, about electric vehicles. I didn't know that zero emissions meant so much to you. So, what do you think? And then the conversation starts there.
All right. Going into the future, looking ahead, what are some of the key priorities or initiatives that you're focusing on at the moment?
So as Uyilo, we were initiated by the Technology Innovation Agency, and our representative, our primary funder, sitting there in blue, Titikile Mtetwa. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to sponsor this event. And together with them, as their implementing partner for a lot of the activities, it's really about prioritizing a woman. Whenever we deal with any of our project activities, we always review with them the percentage of women that are involved, the percentage of people from marginalized and vulnerable communities that are involved, the percentage of people from underserved provinces. So what we're really trying to do at the moment, our key focus area is enterprise development and skills development. And we're really looking for more women, startups, small, medium, and micro enterprises to participate in the e-mobility ecosystem. We have incubation programs. We've got a Kickstart fund where calls go out, and we really want women, female-led enterprises to apply for that funding. So we really want them to participate in this new emerging industry.
Wow, sounds so exciting. I might just change, must change my business now. Thank you so much, Adem. Do you have any last nuggets just to leave with the women? A thought, just one sentence, just to leave with the women, right?
I think it is to persevere. It is tough. If you have the opportunity, get your education. It doesn't have to be a degree. It can be short courses. It can be learning programs. Just keep on learning. And when you keep on learning, it will give you the upper hand in the boardroom. And then you would be given those opportunities to become a key decision maker.
Wow. Thank you so much. Please give her a round of applause. That was really powerful. I feel like we learned the power of representation as women, making our voices heard in the boardroom, and also driving change within our organizations. So thank you, Adem. I'm going to introduce the next panel. The moderator is Vuyolwetu Mostet, who is the program coordinator from Uyilo eMobility, and she'll be talking about breaking barriers and reframing your power. Please, Violetta, welcome to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to please invite the panel to come up on stage. We can please welcome them with a round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay, before we dive into our conversation, I'm going to ask if our panelists can please introduce themselves. If you can state your name, your current role, and perhaps if you can give us a word or phrase of what being a woman in mobility has been like for you thus far.
Good afternoon. Testing. Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hanifa Gaby. I think maybe before I introduce myself, I'd like to first introduce myself as a mother. So I'm a mother of 4 kids, and my biggest blessing is I've got 3 daughters. So for me to be here today and living a life of purpose, knowing that I've got, these 3 young girls watching me is what really drives me. And then, then my second job is I'm a transport engineer, also a PhD researcher at the moment with UCT, and I consult for National Treasury under the City Support Program, responsible for public transport and mobility. Thanks.
Thank you.
You gave us a tough one, the first job. So I'm a mother of a 3-year-old, so I take that, and a project manager for zero emission buses. I'm with C40 cities. So C40 cities, what we do is a network of mayors around the globe, which is 98 currently cities that we're working with. We are united to confront climate change crisis. So I'm with the transport team dealing with zero emission buses as part of a climate change mitigation strategy. Being a woman in the e-mobility sector, it's a new thing in Africa. Latin and other regions are really advanced, but in Africa, being a woman in the electric mobility space, it means you are meeting, we're debunking the scholar knowledge of it's a field for engineers. I'm an environmental scientist by profession, so me moving into that, it was just to debunk that everyone can do this. You don't need a degree for it. Everyone can do it. It's just climate change mitigation, so everyone can mitigate.
Now I'm the one that has the hardest part because I don't have any kids yet. But I am a very busy aunt. Unfortunately, I have I'm the youngest from 6 siblings, so I think I can relate to being a very good babysitter. So I'm volunteering now already. But also, I work for, well, sorry everyone, I'm Nafisa. Everyone calls me Nafi just because my name always gets messed up somehow. But I cannot follow these two beautiful, incredible experts next to me. But my background is actually in human resource management, but I quickly pivoted because I realized that with HR, I'm not making as much of an impact in the startup ecosystem as I would like. So I joined an incredible company called Loop, which focuses on corporate mobility and payments through WhatsApp in the minibus taxi industry. And what it means to me to be a woman in mobility, I'm very new to the sector. But in terms of just challenging a male dominating space on its own, it's really tough. I think my job at Loop is actually to challenge status quo at the office. So that's what it means to me, actually.
Thank you very much. Then, just as part of today's conversation, we'll be touching on several key topics and our overarching theme of breaking barriers and reframing power. One of these is navigating systemic inequality and bias in mobility. These dynamics shape not only who participates in the sector, but also how decisions are made and who needs to be prioritized. We heard in the opening ceremony that women currently make up only about 20% of the transport workforce, which highlights both the challenges and the opportunities for greater inclusion. So to start us off, I'd like to start by asking you, Hanifa, as a professional engineer working in transport planning, a field where women remain underrepresented, what challenges or biases have you encountered in this space? And what strategies have you found effective in building credibility and establishing trust with a diverse range of stakeholders?
Thanks for that. So, gosh, where do I start? During my career, I spent 12 months on a construction site. It was a requirement for me to get my professional registration. And as a young female coming onto a site as the resident engineer, so now for those that maybe don't know, the resident engineer is somebody that manages the site and ensures that the project gets rolled out and built the way it's supposed to be built. So in other words, you are the boss on site. And you come on your first day and the men start whistling at you and passing comments and remarks and things like that. And then I call a meeting with the architect and the quantity surveyor and the construction manager, and they look at me and they're like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? So I think the way I've dealt with it, and that probably was one of my most difficult challenges. The way I've dealt with it was, I didn't get upset. For me, earning credibility, there's two things that you need to do. It's technical excellence. So when you do something, do it well. Do it to the best of your ability. Show the people that you earned your spot there in that boardroom and in that meeting. The second thing is your relationships. Building trustful relationships with people, collaborating, getting together and having this collaborative approach. And also the empathetic and caring, the nurturing trait that we have, use it to your ability. And I think that's what got me through some of those challenging moments.
Thank you very much. Tinele, in your role within the zero-emission bus sector, which is still relatively new, do you find that these emerging green mobility spaces are fostering greater equity compared to traditional transport planning? Or are we seeing similar biases taking shape in new ways?
Thank you so much for that question. I think I spoke at a webinar recently in August. We touched on that. So when we say we're transitioning, the transition comes with the word just. The just then puts in inclusion, and we have the diversity and equity. So it's up to us really. The traditional transport space, they have equity policies. They do have the gender mainstreaming aspect, though it's limited. It's a paragraph, but what made them fail is from the start, those were not introduced. So it's upon us now to make sure that before we do anything, we ensure that gender mainstreaming policies are in place. So I feel like in this new sector, yes, there is much push for inclusion. So because of just transition, there is a must for people to always ensure that gender diversity and equity are always in place. We're seeing progress. We're not just counting numbers in this aspect, because we don't want to have 10 females over 5 males at the end of the day. We want people who are capable. So looking at that, the electric mobility sector is not looking for engineers only. So are you getting the right people? You can't then have a communication specialist for that sector being an engineer, because you feel like they can communicate the megawatts better than a journalist. So it's those things that we are debunking now, where the space was infested by only people with certain qualifications, whereas it's a just transition. Everyone can play a role. Everyone can absolutely do something there. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Nafi, the shared minibus shuttle service offered by Loop addresses a specific mobility need. Could you elaborate on the gap it is filling and how your work contributes to improving women's safety and meeting the needs of marginalized communities?
She was like, I'm going to give the hardest question to the youngest person on this panel. No, but good question. Also, I wanted to say, based on what the ladies are saying, I do think that obviously mobility is, like I mentioned, a male dominating space. So as a female, they always say, you guys act with too much emotion. You know, the empathy is too much. You guys are walking into this room thinking that you're going to cry and everything's going to be okay. But I do think that empathy is probably one of the biggest strengths as female. We just need to know how to use it without emotion. And then to answer my question, sorry, at Loop, obviously we serve the emerging markets. We're trying our best to change that mobility is a male dominating space. So actually at Loop, crazy enough, the people behind the brains of operations is females. Our company has a 70% female rate in the organization. When Loop originally started, they were in the forefront, they were only males. And that was not on purpose. I think the fear, or the female fear, was we're not safe in Ubers, we're not safe, in minibus taxis. Working for a company like Loop won't enhance, the safety measures, but actually it has, because working with more females in the operation space has also given us at Loop the insights on how we can make minibus taxis a bit more safe and secure for them. The other focus that we also are working on at Loop today is empowering females in mobility by offering females jobs first. I know that's bad to say, but I always, and Jamie will agree with me, who's our co-founder, but we always look at the person before we look at the CV. Someone can pass matric and be exceptional versus someone that went to university and doesn't have the confidence to say something with their chest. So we're trying our best to focus on emerging markets, but to also make sure that we change the face of mobility and how we see it in Africa today.
Thank you very much. The next question I think I'm going to pose to all of you, or anyone who wants to take it. But when you're faced with systemic challenges such as the bias, exclusion, or inequity, do you focus on transforming existing systems from within, or creating alternatives outside of them, or a combination of both? What would you say your approach is? Or what has proven most effective here?
I would say we do both. I'll tell you why as well. So if we do it on the outside, we obviously work with a lot of authorities and policymakers. And if we do it in the inside, as I mentioned, we turn to the operations team. So I would say both for sure on our side.
Can I just use a practical example of when I had to, when I was challenged systematically by something that went against females. So a few years ago, I used to work with the city of Cape Town. And I managed depots, road depots and traffic signal depots. As part of the program, we had a women empowerment where we had to employ a certain number of females into the space. And what we found was, the PPE uniforms that they wear, it was made for men. And so we couldn't find clothes for the ladies to wear. Something as simple as that, and so I went to the stores where we get the uniform, and I was like, where's the female clothes? How, they are drowning in the uniforms, even the size small. So I then approached the outside and I said, can you design something that is suitable for females to wear and still keep them protected on site.
Tanele, yeah, do you want to?
I don't want it because it's not from a professional level, so it would be personal rather on how I challenge those systematic changes, especially in a taxi. So I usually, when I go home, I rather take a taxi because home is far. So now there's this thing of the people who would sit in the front should be people with math skills or people, and then exactly. So now,
Not me.
if we're dealing with someone who's disabled who need that space because we know how our taxis are designed, so it was challenging that if then the person who's disabled, they also can't speak, how are they going to count the money there? How are we then going to call on to that person because they need that space also because of their mobility challenges? So it was a fight amongst the taxi drivers saying then he should have his own car because then if he's there, he can't count the money. So it was a huge fight. But then at the end of the day, I had to sit at the back so that I take the money and give to the taxi driver because he was also not having it to say, he can sit there, we'll take the wheelchair and we'll close it and we'll try to find a way for his legs to be put up on those things. So yeah, personal. But professionally, no, I haven't worked online, so...
Lucky girl. Lucky girl. I was going to say, I feel like we get challenged every day. Before I joined Loop, and I'm going to keep pushing Loop because I love them so much, I think my voice is being heard more than ever. In other spaces, I come from a very background of tech. I've been in the tech ecosystem for the past 10 years. It really does take a lot out of you to challenge those barriers. Someone could, approach you with different, you know how it is, females. You go for a job interview, they're looking at you some kind of way. You're standing on a stage, they're looking at you some kind of way. They want something from you before they see you. So it's nice to be in a space where your voice is being heard, I would say.
Definitely. Then I just looking at the next theme or rather topic under this theme, redefining failure and resilience. Looking at redefining failure and resistance, many women leaders carry the weight of being the only one or one of few in the room. In those situations, failure can feel riskier and the pressure to succeed even greater. The question then becomes, how do you reframe those experiences and use them as a source of strength? So can each of you share a moment where resilience was key to your journey? What kept you going? And how did that experience shape your leadership style today or your approach to what you do? We can go at random, or perhaps should we start with you, Nafi? Yeah.
For me, I would say to start with the first good thing, what keeps me going is the drive to be the change in my neighborhood. I live in a little place called Mitchell's Plain. So obviously the biggest things we face is gangsterism, drugs. We see our young people on corners. Even in my own family, I think I've lost all my siblings to drugs. So I always made it my due diligence to not be that person. I remember when I was grade 9, both my parents came to me and said that they couldn't afford school fees because they already retired. So they were like, you need to drop out of school, Nafisa, because we need someone that's going to work for the household. And I remember thinking, damn, I'm only grade 9. Like, how am I going to get through school? And my approach was to change my mentality. I wasn't going to be the girl standing on the corner, buying stuff or selling stuff. I ended up looking at NASFAS. I ended up looking at the Western Cape government, looking for bursary opportunities. And then guess what? The craziest thing happened. I ended up a rugby player. I made it through high school that way. So that for me was just empowering how resilient I am. So that part, what drives me is always being the voice, even to the females in my community. I tell them every day, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your background. But what's important is where you're going. And then also, what was your third question? Sorry.
Just want to quickly.
No, don't worry.
What kept you going, and how did that experience shape your leadership
What kept
style?
me going was my father. So I was very privileged to have a dad that was a freedom fighter. One, a mom that was labeled white, but actually was not white. So just hearing their stories about apartheid and how they grew up and what they had versus what the value of money is today is something that definitely empowered me. And I think what shaped my leadership, I'm a very different leader to everyone else, but what shaped my leadership now is that I believe being transparent is the first step. If something's not sitting well with you, whether it's personal, professional, I want to know about it first so that I can help you on a personal level, and then we can tackle everything else professionally after that. So it again boils down to what our previous panelists said. It's about know thy people so that you build that relationships. And funny enough, it's probably one of the things that has made me the most resilient leader at the age of 30.
Thank you.
Wow. So to me, what has been the key for my journey, I said I started as an environmentalist. So me, after high school, having to study environmental sciences and then getting an internship at the Department of Environmental Affairs, there my focus became climate change. I majored in botany. So that's the first change. Now it's policy. So there, what kept me going is understanding that even in the climate change space, you can still touch on the biodiversity side of things and being open to learning, having the best foundation that I found when I worked for DFFE and then moving to the German development. It was now on mitigation and GHG emissions accounting. So it was also trying to step back onto why did I do this? Am I bad at maths? No. Can I do maths? Yes, of course. So it's just adaptation. And moving to transport has been the similar thing because to me it was the transport sector in the climate change space is not touched upon much. There's even in a policy you'll find just 2 paragraphs or 2 pages of the transport sector. So my thinking was if we move into this and try to drive the change and the understanding of people of the transport sector and not just having someone from transport in a matter of, oh, we just want to hear what they're going to say from the transport perspective in the climate change space. But everyone looks at adaptation, everyone looks at zero emission reduction. So it's all those things that kept me going to say, I will do everything in the ecosystem of climate change. Nothing can stop me. Yes, I'm not an engineer. Yes, I got here not knowing what those megawatts are, what it meant. But then I make sure that every day I see a word that I don't understand, that I will go and research and find out what it means. But understanding also my role that we're working with cities. This is a pretty much new topic. So also we are learning together. You don't have to get there as an expert. We're learning together. But what I can bring in is now coming from the climate change space to say, these are the issues that the climate change space is faced with. So how then do we bring those things here? And yeah, I feel like it was that the great foundation that I had, and I'm not a leader, so disclaimer. So
Mind you, she said this on our call, and I was like, that's not true because you could be a leader in the smallest way possible.
I'm not a leader by any chance, but I don't know the kind of
You're
leader.
literally leading right now. Look at all these beautiful faces.
The kind of leader that I am, I don't know. I'm not a leader, but yeah, if I'm leading, then I lead with empathy. That I think would define me.
Yeah, so I'm just following in on what Tanelia said. So I'm going to use an example. So I spoke about the fact that I managed the traffic signal depots at the city of Cape Town. Now I'm talking about 99% of the people, about 300 people that reported to me were men. So when I got the job, I was the first female to ever have that position in Cape Town. And I had my first meeting with the senior managers of the depots, and they were all men, knowing that of the 5 senior managers there, 3 of them had applied for the same position that I got. And I came from the outside in. So I sat there in that room, knowing that these people are thinking, you took my job. You are only here because of some quota or something that the city needed to, you were just a statistic. And I sat there and I was like, okay, how do I start this meeting now? How do I introduce myself? And I said, I'm here to help you make your job better. I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. You've been doing this for 30 odd years. You know how best to do your work. I am here to help you do a better job and to help and to be your voice where maybe you've been struggling. And one of the things they said was the city is broken up into 4 regions and they've got 4 depots. And they said, do you know that the depots have never, ever, ever met each other? The workers and the artisans that are situated in the depots don't know each other. So I was like, how do you manage a city and you don't know your colleagues? And the first thing I did was I said, right, we're going to have a team building. We're going to get all of these people. I'm going to get permission from management that on a Friday afternoon, you can leave the office early and we're going to go on a team building event. So I did that, and there was 6 of the artisans that didn't show. And I spoke to their managers, and I was like, why didn't they come? And they were like, you know what? They've got issues with management. They're almost retiring. They're not going to come. You're never going to get them to come. And I thought, okay, I went through all this effort. You guys asked for this. I'm doing this, and I think it's a great initiative. And look at the people that are here, getting to know each other. And instead of getting angry, I said, oh, you know what? It's fine. Let me find out why they don't come, what the issues are. And that is the way. It was about caring. It was about listening. It was about speaking to them and asking what are the issues. It was something simple. It was simple stuff, like the vehicle I'm driving doesn't have aircon. They don't want to give me aircon, the boots I'm wearing, I've been asking for new boots for so long. Something simple like that prevented them from participating in events that management, runs or calls for. And I think I managed that for about 6 years. In my last year, at my last team building, they all came. And they were participating. In fact, the one guy asked me, when are you having your next event? So something that I learned was that it's about showing up, it's about listening, and it's about, influencing without even realizing you are influencing, and leading without even realizing that you are leading. And that is what I take away. They used to tell me, you make us want to do things without even telling us to do it. Yeah.
It's rather interesting for me that it's kind of like becoming almost like a recurring thing that I'm hearing in each question, or rather each answer, that empathy is like a superpower for us as women. And it can actually open a lot of doors, and the importance of that, as well as building relationships with the people that you work with. So that's very interesting in the world where I think some of us I always assume that, you have to try and suppress that because it might be seen as weakness, but it's really encouraging to see that, okay, this is actually a superpower. As a woman, it's fine to care, how my colleagues are feeling, and to bring everyone together.
I also think vulnerability plays a big role. I think the one thing I learned about just vulnerability in general is that if you are vulnerable with the other person, they might not reciprocate at that moment, but I promise you it's going to happen. And it happens every day. I can have a fat chat with someone, and I always try to have a conversation with someone and do a key takeaway like, oh, now I know their favorite color is blue. Let me bring something blue next week, to try and penetrate their emotions as well. Yes, empathy can be seen, I think, good or bad. It depends on the scale of what you're trying to achieve, one, but also it's okay to be empathetic. Sometimes you need that in a male-dominating space, for sure. Males are very tough. You can't approach a male and say, oh, my child's sick today, blah, 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 blah. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, no, take the day off, it's okay. Some would, but they'll keep it in the back of their mind. So I would say empathy and vulnerability is definitely our superpower, for sure.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just add on to another superpower there?
We have
Multitasking.
Yes, definitely.
I actually wish there was more males here to hear.
As a mom, I can also,
Multitasking. And also, my husband always teases me about the mom math. I always tell him, and he always tells my kids, listen to your mother. If she says that, that's actually going to happen. So if you are invited for a function at 10 o'clock in the morning, we do it backwards, right? We need to leave the house at 9:30. You need to get up at 8 o'clock. I need to make sure that you've had breakfast by 7 o'clock. And, and I take that into the workplace as well. It's about, being able to see at the back of your head what's coming and planning. And that's also how I manage my day.
Then innovation in mobility, whether through zero-emission buses, integrated transport systems, or emerging technologies, offers enormous potential. Yet without a focus on equity, innovation can unintentionally deepen divides. So, Dinele, if I can come to you first, with the move to zero-emission buses, what opportunities exist to bring more women into the workforce and leadership?
Thank you for that question. I think C40 has a good example of that, how the transition it brought about the equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we have an example of Fortaleza, which was La Rolita, where 100 females were trained to drive these electric buses. So it comes from a point of maybe the diesel buses, getting those code 14 licenses is pretty much difficult for women. Also, maybe the engineering part of it, how engineers are being trained and people needing to have mathematics and physical science to be able to get an engineering degree in South Africa. Then how then with the transition, we train engineers that would go to TVET colleges and we teach them how to service their electric buses. So it comes from a point of others will focus on the battery circularity, others are focusing on the mechanics of the bus, and others being the drivers. So the training comes from that point of we can bring in women, and it's not a matter of people who are academically smart. So it's things that you can teach people using their hands, and also taking some to school, but not everyone needs school, especially for the transition to electric buses, because it's a new training. So with the skill force, yes, there are people who are going to lose jobs, but there are people who can be trained also. So there's a lot for women to be done. They can drive. They can also be securities. There's surveillance with the electric buses, which also ensures that women are safe. So with that aspect, then it means we can bring in more women, because maybe some of them, they were holding back to drive the diesel-powered buses because of the surveillance. They don't know that they're going to be attacked. So this one comes with surveillance. So the safety aspect is already covered with the transition. And the part of engineering and servicing those buses, where now it does not need you to go to school for 4 years. At TVET college, you teach them battery circularities. They can change those batteries, like with how the motorbikes are doing it, where there is the battery swapping. So it's all those things that the electric mobility transition comes with, is how everyone in the room can actually play a role. You don't need to be academically smart. If you're not gifted, you're not gifted. You can do something though. So the inclusion, equity, it comes with that in the electric mobility space, that in the traditional transport planning, it was not possible. Yeah.
Hanifa, how can public investments in mobility be leveraged to promote gender equity?
Yeah, I think so. Something in our space, right? As transport planners, we tend to plan for a commuter, well, all commuters, but not realizing that the commuting needs and the transport needs of females are different. And I think that's where we're lacking, and that's where investment needs to go in understanding the diverse mobility requirements of females. When we're pushing a pram, when we need to go to work and stop off to drop our kids at the nursery or caregiving facility. We're on our way home, we need to stop off at a shop to get the groceries. We do shorter trips, you know. So I think that's where we're lacking in terms of how we plan, and investment definitely needs to go into that. And then also just adding on to what Taneli said about making our spaces and our facilities safer. So well-lit spaces, surveillance, security, those kind of things, in order to make our public transport systems more friendly for females.
Safety is a big one, especially in our country. Nafi, what does equity-centered innovation look like, and how can it improve both accessibility and inclusion?
Good question. So equity. Sorry, my dyslexia there for a second. But equity-centered innovation means designing services that work for us. At Loop, this means safer routes. It means reliable schedules, digital payment system that is easy to use. And then the innovation part is about making travel accessible, fair and affordable, not just faster and having another app on your phone. We also work with obviously some incredible partners to do the things that we can't. We have an incredible partner actually in the audience, which runs a startup called a Moby Mom, which is serving our our youth mothers. Especially when you said about the pram, that was the first thing that popped into my head, because I always see mommies like struggling to put their prams in a minibus taxi, and I'm like, how do I help? Because not anyone's going to get in my car if I stop. So people like her make it possible for Loop to succeed a bit more in what we're trying to achieve, and that's also safe, reliable, and affordable transport.
Thank you. So looking ahead then, your leadership today is creating pathways for the next generation of women in mobility. With that said, what role does mentorship play in building bridges between established leaders and young women entering the space? And if you could leave one piece of advice or a call to action for young women aspiring to break into mobility, what would it be?
Okay, you're
I was
looking at
looking at
me.
Hanifa because I'm like, she's going to be my mentor
No.
after this. So.
Hanifa, we're looking to you.
No, no. Look, I mean, you know what? If all of you sitting here, you have a story to tell, and I love the fact that Tanelia is saying, I'm not a leader, but you have a story to tell. And when we tell our stories, we inspire. And when we inspire, we don't realize that it's a form of mentorship, right? It's a form of letting young females know that you can do it. You can have it all. You know, I think lots of the times when I speak to, and I do talks at schools, encouraging women to, encouraging young females to go into a career in STEM. And the first thing they ask us is, but now, isn't it that, if you want to work now, then you need to give up having a family? And I was like, no, you don't have to. And I mean, yes, when my kids were young, I let a few opportunities go just so that I can have, more family time. But it gets better. They get older. You get to have these opportunities. You get to climb the corporate ladder. And it's about striking the balance. You don't have to focus on the one only and not have the other. So I think when mentorship is very important, I think females, young girls, they need to educate themselves irrespective of what field they go into. I tell my daughters, whatever you do, just make sure you have an education. Even if you don't stick to it or you don't go into that field, just make sure you have something to fall back onto. So my piece of advice that I always like to give is take every experience as a learning experience. Out of every experience you have, whether it's good or bad, ask yourself, what is the lesson in it? What is this teaching me? And how do I do it better next time around? Because I think every experience is a stepping stone in your career path. So don't ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Maybe ask yourself, what is this teaching me? And how do I then, when it comes along my path again, how do I do it better? And I live my life with, if somebody asks you to do something, say yes, and then you go look afterwards, how do you do it? Even if you don't know how to do it. And that's how I've really gone through my career. It's like swim. Yeah.
It's usually quite such a difficult one in the moment. Like, why is it happening to me, or versus what is it teaching me? I feel like it's usually like hindsight. You're like, oh, that's what that was for.
I was gonna say the swimming thing killed you. By the way, I think I was drowning, so I'm gonna say I'm floating. But I have been, like I mentioned before, very privileged to have had probably some most incredible mentors. My actual mentor right now is my CEO, which is Imtiaz Riley. It's my first male mentor I've ever had. So I think mentorship is definitely important. I'm trying to mentor, as Hanifa mentioned, I'm trying to now mentor young people in my community to enter the mobility space. I'm like, there is opportunities. It's not about not finding them. I think it's just you're not looking in the right place. So if I had any words of advice for any of you, I would say show up. My colleague likes to say, have the audacity to ask the questions that nobody else wants. So be audacious, but also be awesome-tastical, because that's what makes you very unique.
I think mine, more than being an advice, is something that I always take away from gender session is we shouldn't use the woman card as something that should elevate us, because most of the time we get lost in interpretation of why are we doing a woman in mobility. Then it means, oh, because I'm a woman or I'm the only female in that panel, then it means that I should get that job. So for me, what stands out every time, and I like to put out there for all the women, is when we're pushing for women in everything, whatever sector that people are in, let's push for women that are capable, women that are doing the work. We don't just want to have breakfast where we sit as women. where at the end of the day, we're still going to pull each other down behind closed doors, and we're doing this just to be seen out there. So it's a matter of, are you capable? Do you have the right resources? Do you have the right support? So Hanifa spoke about mentorship. What can I do to better myself the next time? So it's always that, so that you make sure that wherever you are capable. You don't just want to go there because you're the only female. And when they say, oh, there's a woman in mobility and C40 things, oh, Danele pushes gender, just go there, even if Danele does not know what being a woman in mobility is. So it's all those things, understanding the work that we're doing. So, yeah.
So the onus also rests on you to do the work, to upskill, to perform when you then fill that position. Thank you very much, ladies. I'm going to open it up to the audience for any questions.
Don't be shy.
Yes, please don't be shy.
Luckily, there's no other males here.
Yeah, if there's one thing while we're thinking about the questions, one thing that being in this industry taught me was to not be shy, and to, even though you at the back, you are nervous and you are shaking and you're like, just compose yourself, and you're like, I've got this.
No, the shy thing definitely, but I also, to relate to what you said, it's easy to say I'm a woman in mobility and want to get the job, but you obviously need the right skill set. I say you need to have the right mindset. Anybody can work anywhere in the world, but it's about the mindset you have. So I think that's also very important. It's about how you approach things, how you say things. As females, I feel like we're very misunderstood sometimes because we do act on emotion. Let's also just be very honest with ourselves. But I think, again, it comes down to, if you are acting in emotion, you're not just giving someone a problem, but you're also giving them the solutions to the problem. So I would say, if you are sitting in a situation of difficulty and you feel like you don't have the solution, ask for help. The one thing I do want to challenge everyone on is to start uplifting one another. The one thing that breaks my heart today in our economy is how we break each other down. We could be, whether it's male or female, it's always like very competitive in a space like this. So the most important thing is just to start uplifting each other, because the one thing that you don't see is that your words of wisdom is empowering someone who can change your destiny and your future. That could be your boss in the next 5 years, and they will remember the fact that you didn't help lift them up. At Loop, just so you guys know, we are all young people from youth. When I say the oldest person in our company is probably around 42 years old. Everybody else, our youngest person at the company is about 19, 20. So every day when I walk into the office, I always say, have a smile on your face, even when the world is falling apart, because a smile is contagious. And then the impact that you have on my life is something that I will remember for the rest of my life. So yeah, I would just say, let's start uplifting one another, whether it's male or female, because I really do think that if we do that, our economy might be in a better position than what it is today.
Thank you for that. Just checking to see if we have any questions. Yes, we've got a.
She was like, I just wanted to see if someone else was going to ask, but I'm going to go ahead. Thank you for being the first one.
Thank you for the session. It's been really, really interesting. I've really enjoyed it. My name is Asmina. I'm from the Carbon Trust. We've spoken a lot about leadership and like young leaders in the space, and that we're more conscious of everything going on. But how do we kind of change that mindset of older people, recognizing women in the industry and giving them the voice to kind of come forward? That's kind of like question number one. But my main kind of question is, I think we as women put a lot of pressure on ourselves to prove ourselves in the space. We have this fear of being found out or making a mistake because it's a tough industry to get into in the beginning. How do we kind of alleviate those challenges or those pressures on ourselves whereby we can't actually like feel like we're doing enough because we need to be recognized, we not willing to take risks or make a mistake in this field just because we're scared we're not actually going to make it to the next level or grow or be promoted. And I guess that's a challenge for a lot of us, not just in e-mobility, but in engineering or in finance or any of the spaces, is that pressure that we place on ourselves as women to kind of grow.
That was such a good question. The reason why I'm going to go first is because I know Hanifa's going to kill that answer. So I'm going to say to the first part, I don't think there's anything that I can tell you that will relieve the pressure you put on yourself. I'm saying this from a very, very vulnerable state because I'm probably my worst enemy. I am one of those people that will work and work and work until I feel I'm 99% proud of it before I send it to anybody. The thing that I'm struggling with now in my day to day is that when I make a mistake, I'm so quick to own up to it before I even find a solution. I'll be like, listen, yeah, I wrote that down. I shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, I should have been like, oh, I wrote that down, but I wrote it down because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I don't think there's anything I can tell you that will release the pressure you put on yourself other than to know the reason why you're doing it, the purpose of who you are. You're there for a reason. You know what you put on the table. You know what you bring to the table. You just need to trust your gut in what you do. Then to the question about how do we change the mindsets of the older generation. Um, I'm the youngest in my family. I'm 30 years old. The eldest person in my family is 60, which is my eldest sister at the moment. Her mindset was always, you're too young, you don't understand. You didn't struggle, you don't know this, don't know that. But I'm like, we have a different kind of struggle to what you guys had back in the day, but it all comes down to the same thing. To my brother, I make it very simple. Imagine this was your daughter. I swear I can pull up my phone right now and be like, what do I tell you every day? And he will tell you that I probably changed his outlook on the impact females have in his day-to-day operations. Because I always tell him, yes, you're working in petroleum, you're working at this company, you're a police officer, you're doing all these things, and you feel this kind of way about females. But guess what? They actually add value to your business. So I'm like, imagine this was your daughter. Would you want someone else to look at her in that regard? So I think it's just about, you know, the saying, you can't teach a dog old, like new tricks. We actually can, and they can teach us. So I always take the opportunity to turn it into a knowledge-based sharing session. And that's just my approach, if I'm being very honest with you. But to the pressure thing, know who you are, know what you bring to the table, and own it.
I think just to jump in there on how then to deal with the pressure, I wouldn't have a right advice for that because I still deal with pressure. I'm a year, few months into the transport sector, and I can tell you it does not get better. The pressure gets more. So if that would give you comfort, just know all of us are going through it. But they change from the traditional transport to now electric. It means we're learning every day. It also means that there is the older generation that created policies that are still wanting to be gatekeepers of certain aspects of their policies. So then how do you change their mindset? Is just by giving them the right information. Over time, I feel like capacity building, joining C40 assisted me with this, that if you teach people, then they understand better. You don't have to fight anything because now they understand the reason behind the transition. You don't have to lift a finger, but they will fight it if you come from a point of you just want to remove all the diesel cars in South Africa, because to some it's a business. But if you come with the knowledge and also build the capacity of, we're doing this because of climate change, and climate change is affecting people here, 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 then over time you can change their minds. But to some it's still difficult. They created those policies. They were sitting there, they approved certain policies, and they have businesses in the automotive space. So it's just to put it out there and not blame yourself, because some, not that they don't see your vision, they see the vision, but they are protecting business interests. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, you guys killed it. There's not much for me to say, but maybe I'll come again with the practical examples here, just to evidence in terms of what you are saying. So, for example, when I had older people in my department, it wasn't a situation of, you know how they always think about the youth. You just want to come here and you want to show that you know everything, and it was about understanding, firstly, the job, what it is that they do, and then building tools to make their job easier. So that's what I did. So one of the things was something as simple as coordinating training in the department. And at that time, the city had just launched a online training booking system thing, which, you know, the old people are like, well, now you bring technology here now, and I don't even know how to switch a computer on. Now you want me to do, to apply for people to online training and stuff like that. And I basically developed a spreadsheet, an interactive spreadsheet that I said, all you need to do is just ask the staff on the KPIs what sort of training they need. And when they go on the training, that was also something that we never knew, had they done it already or not. And all they had to do was, it was a spreadsheet that everybody could access, and they would just click yes, and it would like populate everything. It would pull it out of the online system and populate it on the spreadsheet. And you know, the senior managers were like, wow, this is magic. You know, every day I just go to the spreadsheet and I just have to see who's on what training and things. So something as simple as that. It's about how do you make their job easier. And then with regards to putting pressure on yourself. So for me, it's about prioritizing what is important on that day. My priorities change on a daily basis. Every day, my priorities change. Today, it's about, I've got a report due, a deadline at 3 o'clock, and I'm sorry, I'm going to drop everything else. Supper, you guys are going to have peanut butter and bread for supper tonight. There's not going to be supper, I've got a deadline. And then tomorrow, my son's got a soccer match. I'm sorry, work, you're going to have to wait. I'm going to be there for my son. So it's really about knowing and understanding that you can't be everywhere at the same time. You are going to drop some balls. It's normal in this world of where we're juggling all the time. And that is okay. Your family is not going to die if they need to have a peanut butter sandwich for supper. They might hate you for it. And work is still going to be there. And I did my master's a few years ago when my kids were still young. And what I did was I used to work through the night. And for me, it was important that during the day I would work. I came home, I was present there for them, put them to bed, and then I'd go work at my master's at in the early hours of the morning. And yes, it's tough. We are hard on ourselves. And I mean, that's okay. That's how we are wired. But it's understanding that you are going to drop some balls sometimes, and you'll be okay.
And I hope you get that promotion. I was about to say, just own it, know what you bring to the table, and make sure that whoever you are competing with for that promotion either is sick on that day. I'm joking. But no, I'm not gonna. Don't say that. Please scrap from the record. But I hope you do get that promotion. I think if you know what makes you stand out in your business, you wouldn't have to stand next to anybody for it. So I always tell the people that I don't have a team yet, Loop. I don't have a team yet, but I work with incredible people, and I always say we are replaceable, but make your mark, so that even when you leave that business, they'll be like, oh yes, Hanifa did that, Nafi did this, Rio did this. So that's my advice to you: leave your mark. I try to do that in any capacity I can.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to add on to that sorry. Oh, sorry, I didn't give you a chance. No. And now I lost my train of thought. It's fine.
So you were like, do we still have time? Do we have another question? Questions are coming, guys. Please, eh? Oh, this is the lovely Amanda that I was just telling you guys about, which is going to soon be one of our partners at Loop. She does some incredible work in the health tech space.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Amanda from mobimom.com. So mobimom.com transport women, pregnant women, mom with babies, and mom with children with disabilities. And Loop will be soon one of our partners to ensure that our customers are safe, not carrying money all over. So my question is, since I'm new in this industry, we just started, how would you advise me, and what challenges will I be facing in this industry? MobiMom.com was born from, I'm running a mom support network called Glow Movement MPO since 2019 with over 3,000 moms in the network. So this is where I found a gap where moms struggle to get reliable transport from hospitals. And I've got women drivers, but what challenges will I be facing going forward? Because we're not a year old yet, and we're still using WhatsApp rides requests. Our app will be launching in January next year. So I just want to know entering the space, what challenges should I be looking forward to, or rather, yeah, what advice would you give me as a newbie in this industry?
I think probably the biggest challenge is going to be safety, obviously for your female drivers. Um, but that's something that you can definitely work around. You could, install cameras in the car, have panic buttons. Nowadays, we are so fortunate to be able to carry pepper spray around. So maybe just some safety gadgets as well. But I think the biggest issue in mobility is safety at this point. Yeah, that would, Khalifa or Tuli, what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I think again, it goes down to what I said about understanding what the needs are of your customers and of females, and adapting or at least responding to those needs. So I think maybe one of the challenges is that data doesn't exist. So it's about going to the source of the data, going to the hospitals, going to the clinics, understanding when are the days, when babies come for vaccinations. And it's been a few years since I did that last. I don't know how it works. But understanding what the demands are and then responding to that.
I think I will also speak on what Nafi touched on, which is the safety aspect. I work with governments, so with businesses really on starting a business, what are the challenges in mobility? I think my part is on the policy. How do we then get government to have policies that would ensure that your businesses are protected? So it's the safety aspect and also ensuring that you have the right data, because at times you'd be dealing with people that but there are others that are struggling, and you'll come to a space like this and people still saying, but we don't know that we haven't seen any work that you've done because it's according to that specific community that you're working with. So maybe my point of advice would be try and get into the space more, try and be available on the internet. Just put your work out there so that whenever there are this kind of events in the electric mobility sector, someone touches on your work, and maybe there is a community somewhere that would be assisted with the services that we're providing. So yeah, and congratulations on being firm and starting that business.
That's an excellent service. I didn't even know it existed. Wow.
I think networking is very important. So know that I'm going to blow up your phone with networking events. And then I was telling Vuya, I think she should also give you some words of advice. She's a lovely moderator. I was like, she's also a very smart individual.
I would, but in this instance, I think the panel has covered it all. I also wasn't aware of the service. I think it's incredible, and it's filling it's a real need. So that's really fantastic to learn.
Really serving the market that where we have to pick up the phone and wait for an ambulance. And we love our healthcare, but they're trying to do a lot right now. Waiting for an ambulance to come when I can't even imagine it, moms. Being in labor is probably the most scariest thing ever. So knowing that there is a service out there is already making you stand out. I think now it comes down to safety, data, knowing your customers, networking, and then also just being more resilient than you already are.
Thank you so much, ladies. Are there any other questions before? Yes, we have a question back there, the lady in the black and white. Oops.
My name is Success, and I'm a final year engineering student at UJ. I wanted to ask, as a new woman in the male-dominated sector, what challenges will I face next year when I go into the industry, and what tips can you guys share with us?
So maybe it's what Tifot is doing with good green jobs. So my advice to you would be try to be in the spaces as much as you can, and also don't wait for the former employment to come. There's a lot that is happening. You can give me your contact and say, whenever you have an event, I want to register your people in that event. So it's you getting started first and people seeing you doing the work. You don't have to do the traditional application. We know in South Africa it's not working. So then how? Because now today, I think you're brave by being here, taking time off school, coming here to also meet people. So use that. It's going to help you a lot. Yes, there are positions here and there in the electric mobility space. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of internships. So it means you have to, when you get into the space, you will get into an entry-level job. So already, maybe if you can start taking short courses here and there, try to find what people are doing. attend those conferences, share your content as much as you can, connect with people. There's a lot of experts here, they're on LinkedIn, whatever they're doing. You can learn even from a LinkedIn post. There's something that you can take forward and ensure that by the time you graduate, your job is already waiting for you.
Can I also just say that, so when you get your job, right? I'm not going to say if, when you get your job, you put in the hours. You are young now. You have the time now. Believe me, when you get older, you're not going to have the time. Be prepared to put in the hours. And when there's an opportunity to do something different outside of what you normally do, raise your hand and say, I want to do it. And that's how you're going to learn. And then also just in terms of like the challenge, they might think that you are in the boardroom because you are the secretary or you are there to serve the tea, because that's also happened a few times when I go to meetings and I'm there as with my engineer, and everybody speaks to him and they're like, oh, are you making notes? I'm like, what? So like, you're not the note taker. So I was like, I know females have a nice handwriting, but no. So, like, take it in jest, take it in its, don't take it seriously, and don't let it get you down. Just use it as an opportunity to prove to them that you earned your space.
That was very good. I'm just going to say from my perspective, we have a saying in Afrikaans, be dikvellig.
Yeah.
So be thick-skinned, be very stubborn. They're going to try and push you because they think you were new, like a new student, you just graduated, don't have the knowledge, but you actually have an upper hand. You just know how to you have the education, but also the innovation. Young people every day are coming up with new ways to do things. You could sit in that room and listen. My advice is listen on the first day, slap the shit out of the situation the next day. Be like, oh, I heard you yesterday, you said A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but today I'm coming with the solution to your problem because I would do it this way as a young person. So you really have the upper hand because you're coming with a fresh mindset. Education doesn't change, but the way we are educating you changes. And that's something that the person that's in the business already doesn't have. So come in with that knowledge. Like she said, go to more events, be seen. And for me, I will always say it, make sure you have your LinkedIn profile up to date. I personally get all my jobs from LinkedIn. And also I make sure that people that I'm engaging with or youngsters that I'm speaking to also update their LinkedIn. Yes, you might not have the education in terms of what they're looking for, but you have the knowledge. So yeah, that's my advice to you. Just shock the crap out of them the next day.
And persistent. Don't be
Very
disheartened.
persistent.
Yeah,
Good luck.
Continue and press on. Okay.
We have time for one more question.
Yes, one more question.
Anybody? No?
Oh, we've got a taker, a lady in the pink at the back.
Hi, mine is just to add on to what you just said about knowledge. Personally, I'm in this field for electric mobility, but that is not what I studied. But I just developed interest at some point and I started working towards that. And I built up on the knowledge that I was getting throughout my journey. And that is what has gotten me to where I am today. So if you have interest, just keep on doing whatever it is that interests you and just do your best, because trust me, people notice, and that is how you get opportunities. Just be yourself and shine, and ensure that in whatever you're doing, you're visible and you're just, just be the best. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you very much to our exceptional panel. Really appreciate you sharing your insights and your experience. And thank you to our audience for your thoughtful engagement and questions. I think conversations like these always remind me that, for us to be able to build an inclusive and innovative mobility space, it's not to leave it just to up to a few people. It really requires like a collaborative effort. We need to hear all the voices. So thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
And have a great day,
And have a
everyone.
great day. Yes, thank you.
I keep forgetting my feet is not part of it. So I have this habit of like, with my feet. My face was
Awesome.
supposed, but my feet were supposed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Violeta, for your expertise and guiding the conversation and engaging with our panelists. Thank you so much to the speakers, Hanifa Gabe, Tenelle Ndlovu, and Nafi Abrahams. Thank you for sharing your insights, ladies, and your experiences, and you really, really obviously left the crowd inspired today. Now, before actually I invite Uyili back to the stage, I want to do a prize giveaway, okay? I was gonna joke around and say, hey, look under your seats, but there's nothing under your seats. But there are gifts waiting for you guys on the side, they're on the table. So please do grab one on your way out. For our giveaway, though, we're going to give away a WomenIn Festival pass that is valued at 3,000 rands. So I am going to ask you 3 things about the WIN Festival, which is happening in November. So if you answer all the questions right, you get to attend. But obviously, you're going to attend on your own accord. So if you obviously based in Joburg, you're going to obviously fly yourself there. So the question at hand is, who is speaking? You can name one of the speakers at WIN. Who's speaking? When is it? And where is it happening? If you get those 3 questions right, you get to win a ticket to win. So the first person to raise their hands in 3, 2, 1, go. You're already the winner. I'm joking. I'm joking. And the venue? No. No. Try again. Okay, Cape Town. That's. I'll give you Cape Town. It's happening in Cape Town. Okay. Sorry.
Newlands Cricket Ground.
Yes, and then one speaker, just one speaker, that's gonna be on the lineup.
Nestle will be the speaker. Definitely she'll be the speaker.
Do that. Give it to Dad.
So do I win?
Okay, yeah. You can give your details to the organizers. Well done. All right, ladies, we had a very fruitful discussion today about breaking barriers, reframing power. Let's continue on that path and support each other and empower each other, especially with the next wave of women that are coming up. We had some great speakers. Our fireside chat with Edem left us, feeling more uplifted and inspirational. So let's take that inspiration and put it in our organizations. But now I'm going to hand over to our sponsor, Uyilo. Edem, I'd like to call you back to the stage to say thank you so much. Thank you for sponsoring this, and thank you for partnering with us and trusting in us and your brand. And I'd like for you to just come up and close the session. Yeah. Give her a warm welcome. I know you saw her in the morning, but...
Thank you, everyone. This was a really great session. Thank you to all involved. There's just a few points that I would like us to take with us when we leave here today. The first one that stood out for me in this session was looking at ways to drive change in your communities and how to inspire younger women in your communities to also be the change that they want to be, and looking at promoting transparency in order to build sustainable relationships within the workplace. Also, being open to continuously learning and also being flexible, adaptable, especially in this space that we're in of an emerging technology and an emerging industry. Also looking at introducing initiatives to promote relationship and team building in the workplace, using our inherent empathy and skills as women, and also multidisciplinary skills in order to help us move forward in the workplace and help us feel heard. And also always and continuously look at making sure that we understand the diverse requirements for women in public transportation systems, and we promote that in our workplace as women in the automotive and in the transport and mobility sectors, looking at ways we can find or make transportation services and the public transport system more accessible, safer, and more affordable, and also looking at mentorship, inspiring young women by telling your stories and your stories about balancing motherhood and your career, or your stories about balancing being a caregiver, your caregiver responsibilities and your career. You shouldn't be shy. You must always have the right mindset. Never be scared to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. It actually makes you stronger, and it actually guides you and makes you more successful. And also, very important, lifting one another up as women and not always looking at each other as competitors, looking at each other as, if I lift you up, that means I will be higher on the ladder. And also, seeing how we can change the mindsets of older generations. And I like the point of where, if you're with a male, you ask them, imagine if this was your daughter, imagine if this was your sister, or even imagine if this was your mother, to help them change their mindset. And also teach people and educate people in interesting and fun ways so that they can understand this technology and be excited as you are about the technology, and also building tools within your teams to make their jobs easier. I think that's very, very important. And it would also bring the, the, the balance between women in the workplace and men in the workplace to a equal level. And also prioritizing your responsibilities every day. I liked the idea that it's okay if you drop a ball. You just pick it up and carry on, and everything's going to be okay, because we're not perfect, and sometimes as women we are too hard on ourselves. And then also I liked the way that we were able to give advice to one another today. I mean, Amanda, what you're doing with Moby Mom is very exciting, and I'm sure we wish you all the best in your career and your endeavors. The advice that we gave about looking at safety, understanding customers' demands, using user needs assessments, gathering data, because the data currently isn't there, and analyzing that data, marketing yourself. So we really wish you success. And also younger graduates and future graduates, always be prepared to work hard when you start in the workplace, because I can say, as a leader and as a manager, for me, the people who shine are the people who ask if there's anything that they can do. the people who don't frown when you ask them to do extra work, and the people who are excited about new opportunities. For me, I see them as rising stars and shining stars. And also, I do go to graduates' LinkedIn profiles. So when I do see that their profile is up to date, I'm inspired and excited and want to get to know them better and shortlist them for interviews. And the last one, which I liked, was be yourself and shine. So I want to thank everyone today. I want to thank the panelists, Enifa, Nafi, Tenele, Buyo, the moderator, and Nazi for chairing this session, Naz and Sudeshi and the entire team at WomenIn and Smart Mobility Africa, and also Kizia. I don't know, oh, there's Kizia. She's our senior engagement coordinator for marketing and brand, and she works very hard with the Smart Mobility Africa team and the WomenIn team to make this event a success today. And then I'd also like to thank Mr. Tukile Mtetwa from the Technology Innovation Agency, our primary funder. Without them, this event would not be possible. So thank you very much. Please give them a round of applause. And lastly, to you, the audience, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the engagement. And may your livelihoods and your careers be continued to be blessed, and may you always grow from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. That's it for Women in Mobility 2025. Also, thank you to MEN for ending career poverty, and thank you so much for your contributions. Before we leave, please come to the front for a picture. We just want to commemorate and remember this for years to come. Please. Thank you.
Hundreds of women will gather in Cape Town this November, and this is for the Women in. It is a two-day event focused on empowerment, healing, and real change, held at the Newlands Cricket Ground. The festival features over 60 speakers, legal clinics, sound effects, workshops, and wellness spaces, all aimed at breaking barriers and building support for women.
I'm going to replace my picture after all these years. We're going to do it. I do it every time. Every year. Do you want us to stand on the stage? Okay. Can we just stand on the stage, ladies? Sorry. Can we just stand on the stage? Yeah. On the stage, yes, please. Short people in the front, tall people in the back. Okay. I love seeing you in this place. Okay. You are shorter. I'm shorter. Close.